First contact in the Arctic wastes. The wind howled across the Svalbard research station as Dr. Samira Hassan peered through her microscope at the strange bacterial samples she collected from the melting permafrost. 3 years of studying extremophiles in the Arctic hadn't prepared her for what she was seeing. Microorganisms with a cellular structure unlike anything in Earth's biological record. The facility's lights flickered, drawing her attention away from the microscope. The aurora borealis outside her window pulsed with unusual intensity, casting eerie green shadows across her laboratory. Something was interfering with the power grid again, the 3rd time this week. The other researchers blamed solar flares, but Samira's instruments hadn't detected any significant solar activity. The thunderous crash shook the building's foundation. Samira steadied herself against her workbench as emergency alarms blared throughout the facility. Through the observation windows, she saw a streak of silver-blue light arc across the sky before disappearing behind a nearby ridge. Her heart raced as she grabbed her emergency kit and winter gear. Whatever had just crashed wasn't a meteor. Its trajectory had been too controlled, too deliberate. "Dr. Hassan, please remain in the facility," the station's AI announced over the intercom. "Emergency protocols are in effect. Military response teams have been notified." Samira hesitated at the door. Protocol dictated she should wait for the authorities, but something about this felt different. The strange bacteria, the power fluctuations, and now this. Her scientific instincts told her they were all connected. She override the door lock with her security clearance and stepped out into the brutal Arctic night. The crash site was nearly 2 kilometers away, but the strange glow emanating from behind the ridge served as a beacon. Samira trudged through the deep snow, her face stinging from the bitter wind. As she crested the ridge, she stopped dead in her tracks. Before her lay a craft unlike anything she'd ever seen, its hull composed of what appeared to be liquid metal that rippled despite the sub-zero temperatures. Movement caught her eye. A figure emerging from the wreckage, tall and humanoid, but definitely not human. Its skin had a crystalline quality that reflected the aurora's light, and its movements were too fluid, too precise. The being stumbled, clearly injured, leaving a trail of luminescent liquid that Samira recognized as blood. "Don't come any closer," the alien spoke, its voice carrying harmonic overtones that made Samira's teeth vibrate. It raised what was clearly a weapon, though its hand shook from injury or cold, possibly both. Samira slowly raised her hands, her scientific mind racing to process what she was seeing. "I'm a doctor. Well, a scientist. You're injured. Let me help." The alien's crystalline features shifted in what might have been confusion or amusement. "Your species isn't ready for contact." The consortium was clear about this sector being restricted. "Yet here you are," Samira replied, taking a careful step forward. "And based on those bacterial samples I found, you're not the first of your kind to visit." The alien's weapon lowered slightly. "You found the markers." "Impossible. Your technology shouldn't be advanced enough to." It cut off abruptly, head tilting as if listening to something Samira couldn't hear. "They're coming. You need to leave." The distant sound of helicopters carried on the wind. "Military response teams," Samira said. "But they're not who you're really afraid of, are they?" The alien's crystalline skin pulsed with what Samira interpreted as anxiety. "There are factions within the consortium who believe your species should be contained. They tracked me here." It struggled to stay upright, the luminescent blood now pooling at its feet. "You should run, Dr. Hassan. Forget what you saw here." "How do you know my name?" Samira asked, though she already suspected the answer. The bacteria, the power fluctuations, they'd been watching the station, watching her. Before the alien could respond, a high-pitched whine filled the air. 3 black shapes materialized above them, craft far more advanced than anything Earth possessed. The alien raised its weapon again, but this time aimed at the new arrivals. "Last chance to run, human," it said, its voice weaker but determined. Samira looked between the injured alien and the advancing craft. Everything she believed about humanity's place in the universe was about to change. She could follow protocol, step back, let whatever was about to happen unfold without her involvement. Instead, she moved forward, pulling medical supplies from her kit. "I'm Dr. Samira Hassan, and you're my patient now. Try to shoot me, and I'll consider it a symptom of blood loss." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "I am Crystal, scout of the free worlds. And you, Doctor, have just involved yourself in something far bigger than you realize." The black ships opened fire, their energy weapons cutting through the night. As Samira helped Crystal toward a nearby ice cave, she reflected that this probably wasn't what her professors had in mind when they talked about making breakthrough discoveries in Arctic research. But something told her this was exactly where she needed to be, at the intersection of two worlds, with the fate of both possibly hanging in the balance. The cave ahead would provide temporary shelter, but Samira knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be keeping her patient alive long enough to understand why so many powerful forces wanted them both silenced. As they disappeared into the ice, the night sky erupted with the kind of light show that would have astronomers around the world scrambling for explanations. But Samira already knew. The war for Earth's future had begun, not with an invasion, but with a single act of compassion in the endless Arctic night. Trust among the stars. The ice cave's crystalline walls reflected the bioluminescent glow of Crystal's blood, creating an otherworldly aurora around them. Dr. Samira Hassan worked quickly, applying pressure to the worst of the aliens' wounds while trying to make sense of their physiology. The sounds of battle above had faded, but they both knew it was only temporary. "Your cardiovascular system," Samira muttered, watching the way the luminescent fluid pulsed beneath Crystal's crystalline skin. "It's not just carrying oxygen, is it? The bioluminescence suggests some kind of energy transfer system." "You're remarkably calm for someone performing first aid on an alien," Crystal observed, their harmonics wavelength shifting with what Samira was learning to recognize as amusement. "And disturbingly accurate in your analysis." A distant explosion rocked the ice cave, sending small shards of frost raining down on them. Samira glanced toward the entrance, now partially obscured by fallen snow. "Those ships that attacked you, they're not just after you, are they?" "This is about my research." Crystal's crystalline features shifted, forming patterns that suggested concern. "The bacteria you found weren't markers, Dr. Hassan. They were sentinels, designed to monitor Earth's biological development. Your ability to detect and analyze them proved something many in the consortium feared. Humanity is evolving too quickly. And that's a problem because," Samira pressed, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "Because there are those among us who believe emerging species should be guided, controlled." The discovery of the Sentinels was meant to trigger first contact, but under their terms, my faction believed you deserved to develop independently. Crystal attempted to stand but faltered, their crystalline skin dulling slightly. "I came to warn your people, but I was detected." Samira's mind raced, connecting dots she hadn't even known existed. The power fluctuations at the research station, the unusual aurora activity. They'd been gathering data, preparing for something. She met Crystal's multifaceted eyes. "How long do we have?" Before the alien could respond, a new sound echoed through the cave, the rhythmic crunch of boots on snow. Samira pulled Crystal deeper into the shadows, her heart pounding. The footsteps paused at the cave's entrance. "Dr. Hassan," a familiar voice called out. "This is Director Pierce. We know you're in there. Come out slowly." Samira felt Crystal tense beside her. "The director of your research station works for them," they whispered, their harmonics barely audible. "Many of your world's leaders have already chosen sides in a war your people don't even know is coming." "Dr. Hassan, we just want to talk," Pierce called again, but Samira could hear the lie in his voice. 3 years of working under him, and she'd never suspected he was anything more than a bureaucrat with a fondness for budget meetings. "There's another way out," Samira whispered back, remembering her geological surveys of the area. These caves connect to an underground river system. But in your condition, I heal quickly, Crixtal assured her, though their dulling skin suggested otherwise. But you don't have to come. This isn't your fight. Samira thought of her research, of all the mysteries she'd been pursuing without realizing they were pieces of a much larger puzzle. I've spent my life studying how life adapts to extreme conditions, trying to understand the boundaries of what's possible. I'm not stopping now that I've found the biggest discovery in human history. More footsteps joined the first, along with the distinctive sound of weapons being readied. Last chance, Doctor, Pierce called out, all pretense of friendliness gone. Don't force us to do this the hard way. Samira pulled an emergency flare from her kit, the kind designed to burn even in extreme cold. You said humanity is evolving quickly, she whispered to Crixtal. Want to see how adaptable we can be? She struck the flare and threw it toward the cave entrance. The magnesium flame erupted with blinding intensity, reflected and amplified by the ice walls. In the chaos that followed, Samira helped Crixtal toward the back of the cave, where the floor sloped down toward the sound of rushing water. You understand there's no going back? Crixtal asked as they moved through the darkness. Once we descend, you'll be considered a threat by both sides. Honestly, Samira replied, her scientific curiosity overwhelming any fear. I'm more interested in understanding how your people mastered faster-than-light travel with a crystalline-based biology. The implications for physics alone. Crixtal made that harmonic sound that might have been laughter. Perhaps the consortium is right to be worried about how quickly your species learns. The underground river roared beneath them, the water so cold it would kill a human in minutes. But as Samira helped Crixtal navigate the treacherous descent, she noticed their combined body heat creating strange patterns in the ice, the aliens' biology reacting with the environment in ways she never imagined possible. Ready? She asked, hearing their pursuers regaining their composure behind them. To trust a human scientist with questionable self-preservation instincts. Crixtal's skin pulsed with what might have been anticipation. I'm beginning to understand why this planet causes the consortium so much concern. They plunged into the darkness together, leaving behind a world Samira had known for one filled with infinite possibilities. Above them, the hunt would soon begin. Humans and aliens working together to maintain a conspiracy of silence that had lasted decades. But in the depths of the Arctic ice, a different kind of collaboration was forming, one that might just change the fate of two civilizations. As the freezing water carried them deeper into Earth's embrace, Samira realized that sometimes the greatest discoveries weren't found in bacterial samples or mysterious signals, but in the simple choice to trust in the unknown. The real question was, what would they find when they'd finally emerged from the darkness? The hidden colony. The underground thermal vent bathed the cavern in a red glow, its heat creating a stark contrast to the Arctic chill they'd left behind. Dr. Samira Hassan stood beside Crixtal, staring in wonder at the hidden world they'd discovered. Crystalline structures rose from the rock, like abstract sculptures, pulsing with the same bioluminescence she'd seen in her alien companion's blood. Your people have been here all along, she breathed, recognizing the artificial nature of the formations, using Earth's geothermal energy to power. What exactly? Crixtal moved through the space with newfound strength, their injuries healing visibly in the presence of the crystals. This is one of our observation posts. We call them echo chambers, places where we can monitor the resonance of your planet's development without interference. Samira approached one of the crystalline terminals, watching as it responded to their presence with dancing patterns of light. The bacteria I found in the permafrost, they weren't just monitoring Earth's biology, were they? They were reporting back to stations like this. Correct. Crixtal interfaced with the terminal, their own crystalline structure synchronizing with the technology. We've been watching humanity since your first civilizations emerged. Some of us believed your species showed unique potential, the ability to advance through innovation rather than mere technological discovery. The terminal projected a holographic display, showing various points around the globe where similar stations were hidden. Samira counted dozens, concentrated around areas of geological or evolutionary significance. But not everyone in the consortium shares that view. The adherents believe that allowing species to develop independently is too risky. They prefer guided evolution. Krixtal's harmonics carried a note of disgust. They'd done it before, reshaping entire civilizations to fit their vision of cosmic order. A noise from one of the tunnels leading to the chamber made them both freeze. Krixtal quickly shut down the display, but not before Samira noticed something troubling about the station locations. Those patterns, they're not just monitoring points. They form a network, don't they? Before Krixtal could respond, a new voice echoed through the chamber. Very observant, Dr. Hassan. Though I'd expect nothing less from someone of your capabilities. A figure emerged from the shadows, another of Krixtal's species, but larger, their crystalline form darker and more angular. Behind them, more aliens appeared, along with several humans in advanced environmental suits. Administrator Vexthor. Krixtal's voice carried both recognition and dread. I should have known you'd be overseeing this personally. When one of our most promising scouts goes rogue with sensitive information, it demands attention. The administrator's harmonics resonated at a frequency that made Samira's teeth ache. Though I must admit, your choice of confidant is intriguing. Samira stepped forward, placing herself between Krixtal and the newcomers. If you're really so interested in human potential, why not engage openly? Why the secrecy? Because, dear doctor, sometimes a species needs proper motivation to reach its full potential. Vexthor gestured, and the crystalline structures around them pulsed with new energy. The network your friend was about to explain. It's not just for observation. It's a catalyst. Understanding dawned on Samira with horrible clarity. The melting permafrost, the release of ancient bacteria. It's not just climate change, is it? You're terraforming Earth. Terraforming implies destruction. One of the humans in suits stepped forward, and Samira recognized Pierce's voice. This is elevation. The adherents can help humanity skip centuries of development, avoid the mistakes that have plagued our progress, by recreating us in their image. Krixtal's skin flashed with patterns of fury. The last species they elevated lost everything that made them unique. Their world is nothing but crystal farms now, feeding the consortium's expansion. Vexthor raised what passed for a hand, and energy crackled between the crystals. Progress requires sacrifice. Humanity's potential is wasted on natural evolution. We can help them transcend their limitations, become something greater. That's not your choice to make. Samira felt decades of scientific principle crystallizing into conviction. Evolution isn't about becoming greater. It's about adaptation, diversity, finding new ways to survive and thrive. The moment you try to control it, you destroy what makes it powerful. Noble sentiments. Vexthor's harmonics carried something like pity, but ultimately irrelevant. The process has already begun. The bacterial markers are spreading, preparing your biosphere for the next stage. In a few generations, humanity will thank us for guiding them toward perfection. The chamber's crystals hummed with increasing power, and Samira saw Pierce and his team readying what looked like containment devices. They were out of options, outnumbered, and trapped in the adherent's own facility. But Samira hadn't spent years studying extreme environments without learning a few things about adaptation. She glanced at Krixtal, seeing the same realization in their crystalline features. The thermal vent, the network of chambers, the very technology they thought gave them control. It could all be turned against them. You know what fascinates me most about evolution? Samira asked, slowly reaching for the scientific equipment she still carried. It's not the big planned changes that matter most. She grabbed her sampling laser, modified for cutting through ice cores. It's the small, unexpected mutations that change everything. She fired at the nearest crystal cluster, not to destroy it, but to change its resonance pattern. The effect was instantaneous, the entire chamber's network responding to the disruption. Decades of carefully maintained harmony shattered by one human scientist who understood that sometimes the best way to preserve something was to let it change on its own. The last thing Samira saw before chaos erupted was Krixtal's expression of wonder, and she knew that whatever happened next, she had proven something important about humanity's potential, not through control, but through the very adaptability their enemies feared. The hidden colony was about to become a battlefield, not just for Earth's future, but for the very meaning of evolution itself. And somewhere in the crystalline maze beneath the Arctic ice, two species would have to find a way to trust in the uncontrolled, beautiful chaos of natural development. Breaking the treaty, chaos erupted in the crystalline chamber as Samira's disruption rippled through the network. The carefully maintained resonance patterns that had stayed hidden for centuries transformed into a cacophony of light and sound. Vexthor's forces stumbled, their own crystalline biology affected by the feedback. "What have you done?" Pierce shouted over the din, his containment device sparking uselessly. The crystals around them pulsed with erratic energy, decades of collected data bleeding into the chamber's atmosphere. "Introduced a little entropy into your perfect system," Samira replied, grabbing Krixtal's arm. "Sometimes the best way to save something is to let it break and see what emerges." Vexthor's dark crystalline form writhed as he fought to maintain control of the chamber systems. "You don't understand what you're risking. The network connects to every major population center on Earth. If it destabilizes completely—" "It won't destabilize," Krixtal interrupted, their voice carrying new strength. "It's doing exactly what it was designed to do, adapting." They interfaced with a nearby terminal, their own crystalline structure resonating with the chaos. "The system isn't collapsing, it's evolving." Samira watched in fascination as the chamber's crystals began forming new patterns, ones that neither side had anticipated. Her scientific mind raced to understand what she was seeing. The bacterial markers in the permafrost, they weren't just monitoring us. They were learning from us. Every time humanity faced a challenge and adapted, they recorded that pattern. "Impossible," Vexthor snarled, but Samira could see the fear in his fluctuating harmonics. The markers were designed to be passive observers, nothing more. "You forgot the first rule of biology," Samira said, her years of research crystallizing into understanding. "Life finds a way. You've been studying Earth's evolutionary patterns for so long, your own technology started to evolve with us." The chamber shuddered as more systems came online, but not under anyone's control. The holographic displays showed the network awakening globally, each station responding to the new patterns. Human civilization had unknowingly been living alongside an alien nervous system, one that had just become conscious. Pierce raised his weapon, desperation evident in his stance. "This has to be contained. The treaty was broken the moment you decided to rewrite human evolution." Krixtal cut him off. They turned to Samira, their crystalline features reflecting the chaos around them. "The next few moments will decide everything. The network is adapting, but it needs direction. A bridge between our species." Samira understood what they were asking. She stepped forward, placing her hand on the central crystal matrix. Krixtal's hand joined hers, their different biologies creating new resonance patterns. The chamber's chaos began to stabilize, but not into its old rigid structure. Instead, it pulsed with a new rhythm, one that combined the ordered complexity of crystalline technology with the adaptability of organic life. "No." Vexthor lunged forward, but the chamber itself seemed to resist him. The crystals that had once responded to his commands now created barriers, protecting Samira and Krixtal as they completed the transformation. "Look at your readings," Samira called out to the assembled humans and aliens. "The network isn't just connecting to population centers anymore. It's connecting to everything. Forests, oceans, the entire biosphere. It's becoming what it should have been from the start. A bridge, not a cage." The holographic displays showed the change spreading across the globe. In cities, crystalline structures that had laid dormant for centuries began to emerge, not as invasion tools but as symbiotic growths. In the oceans, ancient bacterial markers awakened, starting to clean pollution rather than terraform. The network that was meant to control Earth's evolution was instead becoming part of it. "You're exposing everything," Pierce warned, his weapon lowered but still ready. Decades of secrecy, the careful balance of power. Balance. Krixtal's harmonics carried a note of triumph. "Look around you. This is balance. Not control, not guidance, but true cooperation. Your species wasn't meant to be elevated by us. We were meant to evolve together." Samira felt the truth of it in the resonance patterns flowing through the chamber. The crystalline technology was changing, becoming something neither purely alien nor purely earthborn. And with it, the secret at the heart of the consortium's fears was finally revealed. "You didn't come to Earth to guide our evolution," she realized, watching the new patterns emerge. "You came because you had stopped evolving yourselves. You needed us as much as you claimed we needed you." Vexthor's dark crystalline form had stopped fighting, his own structure beginning to respond to the new resonance. "The Averants will never accept this. The other observation posts are already changing," Krixtal finished. "The network isn't just connecting Earth anymore. It's reaching out to the stars, creating new possibilities even we couldn't predict." The chamber had become a nexus of transformation, and Samira knew they had passed a point of no return. Humanity's first true step into the galactic community wouldn't come through control or guidance, but through the very chaos and adaptability that had made them unique. As the new pattern stabilized, Samira turned to the assembled witnesses of both species. "We can fight this change, try to contain it, and probably destroy both our civilizations in the process. Or we can do what life does best, adapt together and see what we become." The choice hung in the chamber like crystalline threads waiting to be woven into a new pattern. The treaty that had kept humanity in the dark was broken, but something far more valuable was being born in its place. The only question was, were both species ready for what came next? A bridge between worlds. 3 months after the awakening of the global network, Dr. Samira Hassan stood in front of the United Nations General Assembly, the crystalline growth on her shoulder catching the light. She wasn't the only one sporting these new symbiotic structures. Around the chamber, delegates from every nation displayed similar growths, each unique to their bearer's biology and personality. "The integration continues to exceed our expectations," she addressed the assembly, her voice carrying the slight harmonic resonance that had become common among those working closely with the crystalline technology. "What we initially feared as an invasion has become the greatest leap forward in human history, not because it was forced upon us, but because we chose to embrace change on our own terms." Behind her, a holographic display showed the transformation spreading across Earth. Cities where hidden observation posts had lurked for centuries now featured open crystalline structures that helped clean the air and provide sustainable energy. The bacterial markers in the permafrost had evolved into a network of environmental restoration agents, reversing centuries of damage. "Of course, there have been challenges," Samira continued, acknowledging the tension in the room. "The exposure of the consortium's presence on Earth, the revelation of decades of secret collaboration with certain governments. These truths have shaken the foundations of our society, but they've also united us in unprecedented ways." Krixtal stepped forward, their crystalline form now incorporating subtle organic patterns that reflected their own evolution. The former scout had become Earth's primary liaison with the broader galactic community, helping navigate the complex political aftermath of the treaty's dissolution. "The Averants' influence in the consortium continues to wane," they reported, their harmonics carrying across all frequencies. "Our success here has sparked similar transformations on other worlds. The rigid control they sought to maintain is giving way to a new model of species cooperation." The assembly chamber's own crystalline structures pulsed in response to the emotions in the room. Hope, fear, anticipation. The technology had become a living part of human civilization, not as a controlling force, but as a collaborative partner in evolution. There are still those who resist. Pierce spoke up from his position among the Earth Defense Council. His own acceptance of the change had come gradually, shaped by witnessing the benefits firsthand. Both human and alien groups who believe this integration threatens their autonomy. They're not wrong to be cautious, Samira acknowledged. Every major evolutionary step carries risks. But look at what we've achieved in just 3 months. The holographic display shifted to show the first human crystalline hybrid ships preparing for their maiden voyages. We're not just reaching for the stars anymore. We're learning to grow our own paths to them. The display expanded to show the network of crystalline satellites now orbiting Earth, not as surveillance tools, but as a collective project between both species. Each one represented a fusion of human innovation and alien technology, creating something entirely new. The consortium asked the wrong question. Krixtal addressed the assembly. They wondered if humanity was ready for advancement, when they should have asked if they were ready for humanity. Your species' greatest strength isn't your potential for guided evolution. It's your ability to transform whatever you encounter into something new. Samira touched the crystalline growth on her shoulder, feeling the resonance patterns that now connected her to both Earth's biosphere and the broader galactic community. We stand at a crossroads no other species has successfully navigated, not because we're superior, but because we're finally learning to be different together. The chamber's crystals hummed with increasing energy as she reached the heart of her message. The bacterial markers I discovered in the Arctic weren't just monitoring us. They were reaching out. Every species in the galaxy is faced with the same choice we are now: evolve together or stagnate apart. She gestured to the latest data from their deep space monitors. Other worlds were showing signs of similar transformations, crystalline networks adapting to new biospheres, creating unique expressions of the same fundamental change. The treaty that kept us in darkness is broken, Samira concluded, but the true treaty, the one written in the language of evolution itself, is just beginning. We're not just reaching for the stars anymore. We're becoming them, one adaptation at a time. As she finished speaking, the chamber's crystals pulsed with a new pattern, one that rippled out through the global network and beyond. In orbit, the hybrid satellites picked up the first responses from distant civilizations, each one carrying the same message. The age of isolation was over. Krixtal joined Samira at the podium, their different biologies now reflecting complementary aspects of the same evolutionary drive. Ready for what comes next? They asked, their harmonics carrying a note of excitement that would have been impossible in their purely crystalline form months ago. Samira smiled, feeling the resonance of countless possibilities humming through the new networks that connected them all. Evolution doesn't ask if we're ready, she replied. It just presents opportunities and sees what we do with them. Above them, the first hybrid ships prepared to break free from Earth's gravity, carrying crews of humans and aliens joined not by treaties or control, but by the shared adventure of becoming something new. The boundaries that were never meant to be crossed had become bridges to a future neither species could have imagined alone. And in the Arctic, where it all began, the permafrost continued to yield its secrets, not as weapons or tools of control, but as letters in an ongoing conversation between all living things, written in the endless language of evolution itself.